Hi students, and welcome to another session of English with Rita Oshan from Chalukya Academy. Today our topic is the poem I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou was an American poet, singer, memoirist, feminist writer, and civil rights activist. She published 7 autobiographies, 3 books of essays, several books of poetry, and is credited with a list of plays, movies, and television shows spanning over 50 years. With the publication of I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, Angela publicly discussed aspects of her personal life. She was respected as a spokesperson for black people and women, and her works have been considered a defense of black culture. Her works are widely used in schools and universities worldwide. She had an extremely traumatic childhood, and her novel I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings tells us about her life up to the age of 17. The blacks suffered racial discrimination, sexism, insecurity, poverty, slavery, and abuse. The African Americans were segregated by law. The laws were similar to the ways the cage keeps the bird locked in. The caged bird singing is symbolic of the rebellion and protests against enslavement. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings is a powerful expression of the voice of black Americans and their desire and struggle for freedom from subjugation. Maya, in her novel, has mentioned that as a kid, when she had acute toothache and the closest black doctor was 25 miles away, her grandmother decided to take her to the white American doctor in the vicinity. When they reached there, the receptionist wouldn't let them in. Somehow or the other, they managed to have an audience with the doctor, who shamelessly told them that I'd rather put my hand in a dog's mouth than a nigger's. Maya's grandmother was very angry. She reminded him of the favor that he owed her, but he paid no heed to her words. Finally, they had to go away to the black doctor 25 miles away. Maya Angelou has written many quotes. She says, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. She said, you may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lines. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. Coming to the main points of the poem. Maya has shown us 2 birds in her poem. The first bird is the free bird who enjoys life and lives a carefree life full of dignity, respect, grandeur, and happiness. The caged bird lives a life full of fear and yearns for its freedom. It is encaged and keeps on crying for its freedom. The free bird has unrestricted flight, is able to choose the choicest food it wants, and has limitless opportunities. The caged bird is confined in a closed space and cannot see outside the bars of rage. The caged bird is despondent in his life of captivity and yearns for freedom. The caged bird sings with a quiver in his voice. His song for freedom is irrepressible, and it sings out aloud from the cage. Now, before we deal with the poem in detail, let us look at the symbols that have been used in the poem. The free bird stands for the white Americans. The caged bird stands for the African Americans. The sun, wind, and hills stand for freedom, power, and glory, respectively. The clipped wings and tied feet of the caged bird stand for the disadvantage the black people had because of their skin color. The breeze symbolizes hope. The bars of rage symbolize the anger that the black people felt. The singing of the caged bird is symbolic of the black people protesting. I know why the caged bird sings. Devoid of liberty and basic human rights, blacks led hellish lives full of pain and suffering for centuries, and they were like the caged birds who were entrapped. The caged bird's song of freedom demonstrates rage and optimism that toughened it to endure the life in a cage. The free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends and dips his wings in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. The free bird has an unrestricted flight. It can move anywhere. It takes a joyride on the wind stream and floats downwards till the time the velocity of the current becomes less. And then the bird goes and dips his wings in the orange rays of the setting sun. And then it rises again to claim the sky and to go on another flight to search for newer opportunities, to go and find new avenues that are open for it. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The poetess paints a very contrasting image of that of a caged bird. The caged bird lives in a confined space. The cage is so narrow and small that it cannot even move properly in the narrow space. It can rarely see through the bars of the cage. And in anger because of discrimination, because of slavery, because of sexism, it screams out aloud to make his voice known to people, to make the people aware of its suffering. The bird cannot take a flight because his wings are trimmed, his feet are bound, so he cannot even move properly in the narrow space that he has been kept in. The bird is furious at the discrimination and the treatment meted out to it. Now, this was a common cry of all the blacks during those times. They were exploited, they were discriminated against, and they were not given any of the human rights that they were entitled to. The caged bird sings with the fearful trill of the things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. Now the caged bird cannot do anything else but scream out aloud and sing, but it sings with a fearful quivering voice. He is scared because his voice may be silenced, because that is what used to be done to the blacks. He does not know the liberty, the freedom is totally unknown to it, but he still longs for it, he still desires it, he still yearns for it, and the song that he sings is heard far away till the distant hills, and the bird continues to sing for his freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. On the other hand, the free bird is thinking of taking another joyride, riding another breeze, and moving to distant lands, checking out new horizons, looking out for new opportunities, finding new resources which it doesn't want to share with anyone. When the trade winds or the easterlies blow, they make a sound like sighing. When they move through the trees are rooted to the ground. They too are like the captive bird. They too cannot move from their place. And the fat worms, the juicy worms, waiting for the free bird to come and devour them early in the morning. And then, after having his choicest meal, the free bird again rises up to take another flight and asserts his right over the sky and claims that the sky or the universe belongs to him. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. Poor caged bird. His dreams seem to have died, and he seems to be standing on the grave of his dreams or the tomb of his dreams. He is reduced to a mere shadow. He has lost his entity, and he shouts as if a person has seen a nightmare and screams out in horror. The wings of the caged bird are clipped or trimmed, and his feet are tied, so poor bird cannot take a flight, cannot move out of the cage, cannot do anything else but to open his throat and to sing loudly so that its voice is heard. The cage bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. Now this is repetition used by the poetess. The third verse has been repeated again. Just like in school, we repeat your lessons to make you understand them better. In the same way, the poetess has repeated this verse to put across her pain, her agony, her suffering when she compares herself to the caged bird whose voice could not be heard. So she implores that the caged bird sings with a fearful, quivering voice. He sings about the things which he has never experienced earlier but wants desperately to experience them. And his voice is heard far and wide, and one fine day, surely he is going to achieve his freedom. Now let us come to the themes discussed in the poem. The first theme is that of freedom and confinement. The caged bird is kept in captivity, whereas the free bird goes wherever it wants, ranging from enjoyment on the windstream to claiming the world at its own. The captivity cripples the bird in the cage. Freedom is the birthright of every individual. No one likes to live in shackles. She has also asked the people to raise their voice against injustice. The caged bird is subjected to constant mental, physical, and emotional torture. Its freedom is forcibly taken away, but even after such cruel treatment, we observe the bird hopes for freedom. It refuses to give up and longs for a day when it would experience its freedom of life. It sings for freedom even in such a miserable state. It's a reference to the condition of the African Americans who wrote songs, sang and danced in the hope for freedom and equality. The caged bird did raise its voice against the discrimination, even though it was heard of as a distant voice. Maya Angelou was indeed a strong feminist and she raised her voice against oppression. She became the first African American to become a conductor in a streetcar. The theme of the poem has universal applicability as everywhere in different parts of the world people have suffered oppression, exploitation, and their voices have been suppressed. I hope students you have understood the poem very well. I'll soon be back with another video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.